Everyone thinks a nation's wealth is built on gold. They're catastrophically wrong. The year is 1720. France, a nation steeped in royal grandeur and intellectual ferment, found itself in a financial quagmire. Decades of lavish spending by Louis Roman XIV had left the treasury empty, and the nation teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. A desperate regent looked for a miracle, and into this void stepped John Law. Law, a Scottish economist and convicted murderer who'd escaped prison, was an unlikely savior. He was brilliant, charismatic, and obsessed with a revolutionary idea that a nation's wealth wasn't fixed in precious metals, but lay in its capacity for production, fueled by a flexible supply of paper money. In 1716, Law convinced the Duke of Orleans, France's regent, to establish the Banque Générale. This private bank was empowered to issue paper money, ostensibly convertible to silver. Law's vision was bold: replace France's chaotic monetary system with a centralized, paper-based currency. The initial results were promising. Paper notes, backed by public confidence and the promise of convertibility, began to circulate. Trade picked up, and Law's system gained traction. But the true game-changer arrived in 1717, the Mississippi Company. The Mississippi Company, officially the Compagnie d'Occident, was granted exclusive trading rights with France's vast Louisiana territory. Think of it, the untapped riches of the American continent, all under one corporate umbrella. Law painted a vivid picture of limitless wealth. He began issuing shares in the company. Initially, the shares were offered in exchange for government bonds, effectively converting France's crushing national debt into equity in a potentially lucrative venture. The public, starved for opportunity, bought in. As the Mississippi Company's prospects were relentlessly hyped, its share price began to climb. Law merged the Banque Générale with the company, renaming it the Banque Royale, and took control of France's entire foreign trade. He essentially created a financial monopoly. The public frenzy reached fever pitch in late 1719. Everyone wanted a piece of the Mississippi dream. The Rue Quincampoix in Paris, where shares were traded, became a chaotic scene. Fortunes were made and lost in a single day. The price of a single share skyrocketed from 500 livres to over 10,000. This was the true bubble. The value of the shares had detached entirely from the company's actual earnings or the Louisiana colony's true potential. It was pure speculation, fueled by the belief that prices would always go up, that someone else would always pay more. Law's system relied on a constant influx of new money to keep the paper empire afloat. The Banque Royale kept printing more banknotes, further inflating the currency supply. Gold and silver, the traditional measures of wealth, were banned from private transactions to enforce the use of paper. But the smart money, the early investors and the financially astute, began to cash out. They converted their paper profits into hard assets, land, jewels, and foreign currency, and quietly exited the market. This began to prick the balloon. By early 1720, the cracks were undeniable. The sheer volume of paper money in circulation far outstripped the nation's gold reserves or the Mississippi Company's actual value. Public confidence, once boundless, began to erode. The panic began slowly, then accelerated. People rushed to convert their banknotes back into specie, forming massive queues outside the Banque Royale. The bank, of course, didn't have enough gold or silver to meet the demand. Law attempted desperate measures, devaluing banknotes, setting maximum prices for goods, even limiting the amount of specie individuals could possess. But these only fueled the public's fear and further destroyed faith in the system. The bubble burst with devastating force. The share price of the Mississippi Company plummeted, losing nearly all its value. The Banque Royale ceased payments in specie, rendering its paper notes worthless. The illusion of wealth vanished overnight. Thousands of French citizens, from aristocrats to commoners, were ruined. Fortunes amassed in months evaporated in days. The streets of Paris, once buzzing with speculation, were now filled with despair and anger. Law himself, once revered, became reviled. John Law fled France in December 1720, his paper empire in ruins. He died in Venice a few years later, a gambler and a man whose brilliant, yet fatally flawed, ideas had brought a nation to its knees. The Mississippi bubble left a scar on France for generations. The collapse taught a harsh lesson about the dangers of unchecked speculation, the seductive power of easy money, and the fundamental importance of intrinsic value. It proved that, without a tangible foundation, even the most innovative financial schemes are ultimately built on sand. The Mississippi bubble wasn't just a historical footnote. It was a blueprint for countless future market manias and financial frauds, a stark reminder that human nature, particularly greed and irrational exuberance, remains a constant in the world of finance. Explore another historical financial catastrophe and the lessons it still holds.